All right, folks, I am going to talk you through a little bit of the work having to do with setting up your layout and getting Civil 3D to plot your final drawing. And I'm just doing this. I brought in the aerial panel so you can sort of see what's going on. I'm going to zoom in a little more around Kirby just for example. So we're zoomed in. And eventually, remember, you're not going to want your aerial panel or your points on there. You can always turn those layers off. You can keep them there. You can always turn those layers off. But we're going to pretend you've drawn everything. You're ready to go. And we want to have you set things up in layout. So what we are in over here, what you do all of your work in is called model space. Where we control the layout is in layout space. So notice down here, we've got model space, we've got layout space. I'm going to click on model space again. It takes me back into the drawing mode. Layout space looks a little bit differently like here. This outline, this is what we call your viewport. This is showing you what would be printed on a piece of paper, and you can control what is shown from your drawing in this space, which is actually a different space. So if I select the outside of it and then double click within it, some weird things happen. I've got pans, I can zoom, right? I can zoom in. I can zoom in on specific areas if I want to, and I can align basically exactly what I want to see. I am going to not zoom scale, not that. And zoom in. So let's zoom over here. Well, we are way too zoomed in. Zoom out a little bit. Let's just go top. That's fine. So you can control basically what is shown in there. If you want to get out of that, you can just double click outside of your viewport and zoom back out. What I want you to do is I want you to follow along here, but also refer to the handout that you have. What you're going to do is you want to tell your layout space what your paper size is, and to do that, you're going to go down, hover over layout, right click, and you are going to go to page setup manager right here. You are going to say modify, and then we are going to change some things here. I want you to take a look at the sheet under paper size. You are going to select Arch E 48 by 36. What to plot, you're going to change this to extents. And under plot scale, you're going to say fit to paper. And you're going to say, okay. And you're going to notice that this paper size all just updated. Now you might want to change, your viewport size. The viewport is always indicated by the black line on the outside. If you click on this, you have now selected the viewport, and you can click on any of these corners to change the size of the viewport and to move it around. So I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller. And then remember, you can double click in here to change your zoom on your actual viewport. So yeah, let's pretend we zoomed in here and this is what we want to see. Double click outside to get out of it. If you want to move your viewport, you can always grab it and hold down the cursor, hold down the cursor key on your mouse and move it around. Okay, so the other thing we want to do is we want to bring in a title block. And what you want to do is you want to make sure your title block is in your folder. And I actually grabbed Ian's title block. Ian, we're going to show off your title block. And this is what is called an XREF, or an external reference. To bring in that title block, you're going to type in XREF, and press enter. What you're going to see here is you've got your drawing. You've got a little pop-up window. It says external references. You've got your drawing here. We also have our map showing up here because that's an external reference. You're going to go up to the top here, attach DWG, click on the little arrow and select attach to DWG. You're going to navigate to wherever you have that title block, and I have Ian's right here. You're going to say open. And then it's going to ask you some things. It's going to say, do you want to set the scale? And we're actually going to say specify on screen. And it's going to ask you, where do you want to have it insert in your document? And we're going to say specify on screen. And I am going to say, okay. And what you can see now is I've got a title block floating around here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to specify where I want the bottom left corner to go. And then I'm going to click. And now I get to control the scale, which is a little harder to control initially. So do the best you can. I am going to click there. And that brings in my full title block. I can always change that title block. So if I select that title block, right, I can apply the same modify features that I normally use to that title block. I can move it, I can scale it. I recommend scaling and not stretching so that you keep the words looking good. And you can make any changes to that. The thing is, you can't change anything within your title block once you bring it in. So that is set. It brings it in basically like an image. Once you have your title block in, though, you can move your viewport around. You can make your viewport fit your paper. And you get it nice and centered. You have your title block. This is starting to look pretty good. Now, I just want to show you a couple other things. If you go over to Layout Tools, you're going to notice some things that are useful. We're actually not going to use the legend. I recommend that you draw your own legend, and sometimes it's a little easier to draw this in the layout as opposed to paper space. So that's something for you to think about. Remember, you can always draw in layout, right? I can draw a line in layout space. I can have it drawn here, right? And I can detext and add some text right here and say building. Whoa, that's way too big. So we won't do that, but right, you get the idea. Let's go back over. Zooming, I'm doing some zooms. All right. But what I do want to draw your attention to under Layout Tools are two other things. You've got a north arrow. You can add a north arrow. You also have a scale bar. You can add a scale bar. So follow along for that. Make sure your scale bar is in imperial units, not metric units. Make sure, as always, that you are saving regularly. And then when you go to finally export, I have some instructions for you on today's handout. Test it out. Make sure you know what you're doing. Those are the basics of working within your layouts. I hope this is helpful.